Hello, good morning. We are here today to talk about cognitive engagement and what that looks like for our students, but more importantly, how we as leaders in the building can measure if our students are meeting cognitive engagement or not when we walk into a classroom. My name is Dara Tucker and I am an educator. I have taught 2nd through 5th grade, and I have also been an art teacher for about half of my career. I was an AP for 4 years at the elementary level, and I am currently working as an assessment coordinator for a very large e-school in Florida, and that is from K through 12. So engagement is constantly on my mind of wondering how can we have our students truly involved in their learning, and how can we support our teachers in their quest to have their students engaged. So I know as an AP, there were many times that I would be leaving the building or having our students leave the building, and they had so much energy as they left the end of the day. They were running to their buses or to a car, and they were full of life. And then I would meet my teachers at the end of the day, and it was often very much the opposite. My teachers were leaving exhausted. And that is not how we want to be able to have our teachers leaving at the end of the day. We want for them to have the students do the heavy lift of the work. So a phrase that I believe in is that our students should be going home more tired than our teachers. And we need to make sure that we remember and remind our teachers our job is not to entertain students, right? They have gizmos and all sorts of different things that are way beyond what we can do for entertainment. But our job is to engage them, excite them about their learning. And we want, as leaders in the building, to be able to have a measurable way to make sure that our students are being engaged in learning. And that's what we're going to be diving into today. So how do we know if our students are cognitively engaged? What do we think that would look like? So I have at your table some sticky notes. I want for you to take a minute now and just write on one of your sticky notes how you know that your students are cognitively engaged. What does that look like in your mind when you walk into a classroom? So take a minute now and write that on one of your sticky notes. I'll give you a second for that. At this time, I don't want you talking to any of your table partners. I know you might be eager to talk, but this is right now just your own brain dump, so to speak. Okay, and again, don't share that yet. And then when you walked in today, you may have noticed you had a farm animal on your table. And I want for you to take now your farm animal that was on your table, your sticky note that you wrote on, a blank sticky note, and then I need for you to have a writing utensil, so a pen to take with you. Okay, now for this activity, you are going to leave your area, your safe zone of where you are at with your other teachers and administrators, and you are going to pair up with somebody who is making the same farm animal noise that you are. So don't hold your farm animal up, okay? If you have a cow, I don't want to see that you've got cows as you're going around. I want to hear moos throughout the room. And as I hear a moo, if I'm a cow, I am going to then match up with somebody else who is making that same noise, okay? So we should hear a whole farm of animals here in a minute when I set you free. And you are going to have 1 minute to be able to do that. You are free to find your farm buddy with the same noise that you rush, but start heading back to your table areas, please, as you have shared your idea for what cognitive engagement looks like and have written down what your partner shared as their idea for cognitive engagement. And we'll bring those back to our table. Okay, so now's the time that I want for you to be able to share with your table what you had gone ahead and gathered information from as you were out with your farm pair. I want for you to share your sticky notes, both of them, because you should have 2 now. And I want for you to use the forms at your table that are written on the top of one says writing, and the top of another one says speaking. You're going to go ahead and you're going to sort all of your sticky notes for your table now and see if you can fit all of them in either the category of writing or the category of speaking. Let me give you an example. So if I think cognitive engagement is I will see students in cooperative groups, that's an example of how I will know that my students are cognitively engaged. I would put that in speaking as if I think I'm going to see that with them talking to each other. Okay? Another example would be if I see that students are taking an assessment, that I count an assessment as cognitive engagement, I would put that more than likely in the writing category. Okay, go ahead and take a couple of minutes, please, to sort those. Of what we see our students do for their thinking is going to come in one of those 2 categories. I used to say to my students, I wish that I had a magic trick to be able to get into your brain and see everything that you've learned. But I don't have that. So somehow I need for you to show me what your knowledge is. Well, as years have progressed, I used to think when I first started out in education that meant an assessment. But I was missing key learning opportunities for my students if I was waiting for an assessment to see if they were engaged in the learning. So now I know, well, I can see them while their brain is working, while they are thinking, while they're in that process through either writing or speaking. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what those characteristics are that we are looking for a high level of cognitive engagement. Now, this work comes from Antonio Ngarver from 2015 and Jennifer Gonzalez from 2016. A little bit of a combination of both of their works for the 5 that were most true in my experiences and my prior schools. So students must feel safe with the relationship with their teacher and their class. Students need to feel that they're valued, they're cared for by their teacher for sure. But beyond that, we must have a safe environment in the classroom so that students feel they can take risks. They can answer questions, they can talk and have conversations with other students and their teacher and know that it's okay that they're not right. So first we have to set that environment up where they feel safe to take those risks. The second thing is students need a choice within an authentic learning experience that has an audience beyond just the teacher. So if the students know that the only person that's going to see their work is me as the teacher, and maybe or maybe not, I'm getting it back to them promptly, that could also have an effect on them if it takes weeks for the teacher to give their work back to them. But if we really want our students engaged in their learning, they have to be having choice. They have to feel that they've got a buy-in in what they're learning. Now, I'm not talking about, obviously, we're not throwing out standards. We know our benchmarks are essential for our students, but we want for them to have choices, and they could be very simple as, how are you going to show me your presentation of your knowledge? As just one example. And then, do they have an audience larger than just you or just their teacher? A third way that we see students are cognitively engaged is having an opportunity to talk about their learning with others. So that allows students to build upon each other's learning and thinking and grow within the classroom setting together. A lot of students need to be able to talk to process their learning. And a fourth way is our expectations need to be clear and modeled for students. They need to have an example, and not all auditory. They need to be able to see examples too. They need to be able to have a set expectations and have that be almost a standardized expectation so that students know every time I walk in, My teacher is going to hold me to a high accountability. My teacher wants to make sure that I am giving my best each and every day, and that's clearly explained and modeled for students. Fridays, for example, it's not that we come in on Fridays and everything changes, or a substitute comes in and those change, those expectations. And our fifth one is tasks must be novel, they must be new, but still within a student's reach to believe they can improve on the task. That might take us back to our days of college when we talked about zones of ZPD and where our students are at. But we want to challenge them, but not so much to the extent that they feel that they're gonna give up before they've even started. So we need to make sure it's new, it's exciting, it's not the same thing that they have done year after year because we've done it year after year, so it's easier for us maybe. So we want those new ideas for our kids to be able to be interacting with, but still not so out of their reach that they feel like they're gonna not be able to attain that goal. So we oftentimes think of students and we think like, our kids are off task. This is not the image that I'm talking about when we talk about cognitive engagement. Our teachers are experts at bringing students like this back. We know that, right? Like we know that they have in place and we have supports for them for students who are off task. What I really want for us concentrating on and zoning in on are students who maybe look like they're doing everything right. Maybe they're raising their hand. I especially see in kindergarten through second grade, our younger students, they are the ones who are shouting out, wanting to make sure that they can actively participate. But many of these students, we will start to see as they get older, in the higher grades of elementary even, that they start to become those passive learners. They're not going to be naturally as engaged in their learning, even though that student may have been when they were younger. So we're focusing more on the students who look like they are doing everything that a teacher would want them to do, but yet aren't truly invested in their own learning. It's kind of, again, that passive learner, or maybe a student who does it because they know they need to get good grades at home, but yet we want them to truly be invested as a learner. So that comes into quantity versus quality when we talk about cognitive engagement. So quantity is like that first picture that I showed you with the students kind of looking like they were gonna be about ready to do a pencil fight there. Okay, our teachers, we know that we have worked with them on being focused on attention, having effort. They are great at getting students to be able to persist at a task, that growth mindset we've worked so much on, and time on task. We really manage how much time that we have for our students to be able to be learning. What we're going to be focusing on is more of that quality of cognitive engagement, how our students are absorbing it, and their curiosity as they're interacting with it. Are we sparking something new with them to be able to be curious as learners as well? So I have created, for both speaking and listening, a leader checkoff. So you could do this with your leadership team. You could train them in advance for this. You obviously want to share these ideas with your teachers, so as you're walking through, they know that you have value to this. And when they see that you as a leader have value and are looking for those things, then of course they're going to be working to make sure those are coming alive in their class.